And it came to pass, when Moses held up his hand, that Israel prevailed. And when he let down his hand, Amalek prevailed. Now, Moses is on his way to the promised land, just like you are. But the enemy, Amalek, does not want him to get to the promised land. You ladies are on your way to your happily ever after in Jesus. But there's an enemy of your soul that does not want you to get there. And so you two have been fighting some battles here lately. But I just want to encourage you to keep your hand up. Now we know that Moses, because of his disobedience, didn't actually get to go to the promised land. But, and that's years later, this instance right here, he is up against an enemy that is trying to prevent him. Moses went up on a mountain, and when he held his hands up, the one that was holding the rod, when he held it up, the army of Israel, Joshua, and the army of Israel was winning. But when he put his hand down, they started losing. Now, sometimes we can get in our flesh and we can say, what in the world is holding your hand up got to do with defeating the devil? It doesn't have anything to do with defeating the devil. But obeying God has everything to do with defeating the devil. You see, Moses had to obey God. And when he was lifting his hands up in the air, he was recognizing and he was obeying that we are God's people and we will prevail. His hand got tired. His hand, even, he was, I want to say around 80 years old here, maybe. A little less. I'm sure his hands got tired. I'm sure he couldn't stand there. That's why he had two people to help him. And you have people that help you. But you got to keep your hands up. You can't give up. You can't just sit down, throw your hands up and say, oh, I can't do this. You can't do that. You will never enter your promised land if you give up now. You will never enter your promised land if you don't obey God. Now, I've been watching y'all. This week's camp meeting. I'm just supposed to get all up in your cornbread. Y'all go down to the altar, you'll pray for 2 or 3 minutes, and then you go back and sit down. You're never going to get to the promised land. You're never going to be able to enter fully into God's presence like that. There's something the Bible calls tarrying. You got to tarry. You got to wait on the Lord. When you get down there to those altars, don't leave until you get what you came for. And sometimes God will test you and he'll see how bad do you want it. So I'm asking you ladies, do you want your promised land? Do you want your happily ever after? Do you want to be full of the Holy Ghost? Do you want to feel God's presence like you've never felt it before? Well, then why are you giving up too soon? Keep your hand up. I'll be right down there praying with you. Moses had Aaron and Hur. You got me and Jamie. Love y'all. Y'all have a great day at work. And I'll see y'all this afternoon.